Good afternoon, traders. This is Christian from Hertz Market Trade Group, and this is your end of day market recap for Monday, September 12th. Risk disclaimer in front of you. Please read the full risk disclaimer here, but everything that we're talking about in this video is for information purposes only. So, theme of the day. Well, we got a couple of them that we'll go through, but one of them is, the indices continue to rally. So S&P Qs, IWM, all up over 1% for the day. And the streakiness continues. Remember, it was 7 down days in a row for IWM. I think it was one less than that for the S&P and the Qs. But again, decent streak to the downside, and now we're working on a decent streak to the upside. So that's 4 days in a row, and you got a little bit of something for everybody. If you're a perma market bear, you had some downside to play for a couple weeks, and if you're a perma market bull, you had 4 days now to the upside. So again, we don't like to refer to ourselves as either one of these things. We try to adjust to what the market gives you, but it just kind of does when you have a streaky market like that. Yes, as long as you've got some sense of risk management, you could stay out of the down move, capitalize on the up move, and vice versa if you're a bit more bearish. Another thing to kind of note here is that, notice how, of course, this is hindsight 2020, looking when we do this, but we did very much execute this at Tribeca Trade Group is stay out of this move when the market action is below the 5-day moving average. Of course, it was a little bit tricky on this particular candle where price got back above the 5-period moving average for 1 day. But as Powell spoke, you had this big move down, and there was no question, right, about staying with this trend to the downside or not exposing yourself. And then once we flipped back on 9/7, right, there's been no argument here at all saying here price got above the 5-period moving average, and we've been above there now for 4 days. The other development that we have going on here, probably 2 developments that you can kind of take away. Number one is kind of the easy one. We're back above all these moving averages, the 5, the 20, the 50, right? So that's some confirmation for you. And then the other one is we're inside the value area for the September. This is actually the first day of the first time in September that we're inside value. And the 80% rule is now in effect, meaning that there's an 80% chance that we could travel from one end of the value area to the other. Now, again, we don't have to get there in a straight line. And again, it's not 100% chance, but using the criteria behind volume at price and value areas, there's an 80% chance. I wouldn't be surprised if we do a little bit of backing and filling. Now that we're inside value, we could let what was resistance be support, right? I was worried about this kind of coming into today, what would happen, whether or not price would get rejected at 40.89. Certainly did not do that. And now you can let this be your support. Right. So again, 40.89 is the main level to watch here. One thing I am watching too on the S&P chart, and then we'll talk about some of the other concepts of the day, but there's also one of these version point of controls that we're getting very close to, right? This kind of marks the area of this big slide that we saw on the Jackson Hole day, right? Where we haven't revisited this level. So you might also see a pause here once we get to 41.45. Very interesting, considering that we've made this rip up. And my thought is that you could see some digestion here. Doesn't have to be, but with the CPI report tomorrow, I wouldn't be surprised if we get that. Whoops. Let me get to the right screen, and I'll give you what they're looking for in terms of this. But negative 0.1. So 0.1% is what the expectations are for tomorrow. We did a Twitter space earlier talking about with me, myself, and 3 other panelists talking about what we expected for tomorrow. Listen, I'm coming in very light into tomorrow. I'm going to let the price action judge it for me. And then, if I have to chase a little bit with some things, so be it. But I've been very methodical, right, with taking profits and, keeping some exposure on, but taking profits where I have a really nice profitable trade and moving on. That's my, going back to the beginning of September, right? I set my goals in terms of, hey, I figured we've got a tough seasonal month. We've got a lot of things to get through. We've got to get through an important Fed meeting. So my goal for this month is to kind of be hitting base hits, a few doubles here and there and so forth. But so far I'm following along the trading plan, even though I think this market has been giving us some very good opportunities. So that's what the numbers for tomorrow. right? And that's kind of the first, uh, the first derivative, right? Because really it depends what the Fed is going to do, right? We know that the old saying is "Don't fight the Fed," right? And so we've got to see this number first, come in lighter than expected as a starting point for the Fed to get, to get to where they need to be to say, hey, inflation has finally come down for us to pump the brakes on the raising of their interest rates. Speaking of which, notice that we're kind of fully priced in at this point for 0.75% of a rate hike for the September 21st meeting. And then when you look at November, you can add these are additive, right? So we are looking at a total of about 1.25, right, up until the November Fed meeting. And that would get us to an implied rate of 3.6. Again, just to kind of look at what the market is pricing at. I like that the market is pricing in some bad news already. Now we just need a little bit of good, some good news on the tape. But I'm kind of running through a bunch of different scenarios. It could have been buy the rumor, sell the news. So again, we'll see what happens when we get to this 41.45. What I thought was particularly interesting today too is what's happening more in the macro stuff, right? We got a big sell-off today in the dollar, which was nice. Right? I think we were down about a 0.5% today. So we're coming in and testing the 20-day moving average. One of the things that I noticed about a week ago was we did get what's called an RSI divergence, right? The price action made a new high, but the RSI did not. And you can see that the RSI has been making lower highs, since we made this peak here. So again, that can be burned off. Like that's possible, right? I've certainly seen RSI divergences before and they're not an issue, but it could be that this is starting to kind of come in now, and we might see a further break. Now we didn't get an RSI divergence on the daily chart, right? We did on the weekly. Right, so we'll see what we do here at this 20-day moving average, but we've given back. We're basically back to that previous peak. All right, now again, this was good news. Here's bad news. What happened in bonds today? Right, again, we talked about this pre-market, right? We do a pre-market session every morning at Tribeca Trade Group starting at about 9, very close to 9:10 in the morning is when we actually start. But I said, hey, bonds are up again this morning. They've had several attempts at being green in the beginning of the day, and they're not finishing that way. Now, it could be that the Fed is finally selling bonds, right? And they're really kind of pushing things. And every time there's a bid in bonds, it seems to be getting pushed down. We talked about the 5-period moving average on the S&P chart. Notice the 5-period moving average on the long bond, the futures, right? Price is staying below that 5-period moving average and continuing to trend, and sellers are in control for now. Till this gets back above the 5-period moving average, that's what we have, right? And someone brought this to my attention. I did a Twitter space earlier, and they said, because I said bonds haven't gone through the lows of June. Well, they have in TLT, and that's very interesting, right? So we're now pressing down to this lower VPOC, right? Very close the last time that this thing came to being taken out, and it got very close today too. So bonds, I think, will be very interesting tomorrow too, right? Remember, if the CPI comes in hot, right, probably what you will see is yields crank higher again, right? If the CPI comes in less than expected, maybe you finally see a little bit of a bond rally. All right, so that's enough macro. I think with the story of the day, or being that Apple's the biggest name, this kind of stole the show. Apple previously really wasn't doing too much, as well as the whole extended FANG group hasn't really been participating until today, right? There was a report that there was higher than expected iPhone sales, and this is a big move for Apple. That's up 4% and retakes kind of a flat looking 200-day moving average, but again, making a nice move here. All right, so that's your big winner of the day. Did I trade it? No, I didn't. Apple's one name I have a difficult time. I don't do well trading Apple, but there you go. So here's a couple of names that I've been long, that have been showing some nice relative strength. I talked about this one in the weekend video. I actually put this chart on Twitter, but we've got some nice continuation from the breakout. right? One of the major points that I talked about with AXNX, which is a medical device company, is that when the market was going down, this name was not going down, right? That's what we call relative strength. When the market shaped up, this thing has been flying, right? So out to new highs. Very impressive. What I thought was also impressive today was Zscaler, right? Zscaler had this huge day on Friday on earnings, closed right around the highs, and has some continuation. I think Zscaler can continue to rally up to 204. Just a hunch. Again, doesn't mean it has to get there in a straight line, but nice to see this group start to participate. You know, it gives some life to some of these other names. Sentinel One was also a name that had decent earnings, but a bad reaction. This is back actually above value. Palo Alto was another name too that had a big earnings move up, but the market was weak. This did not show relative strength. It moved down with the market, but is kind of retesting back to that virgin point of control. Another group that's been very strong has been the restaurants, right? And the leaders in this group has been Chipotle, right? Wing would be another one too, which you know, is now in a little bit of consolidation. But if you go through some of these restaurant stocks or casual dining stocks, you're going to find that they're very, very strong looking, right? So for now, you know, from what I've seen, I was just traveling over the weekend in Milwaukee, and the airports, you know, the restaurants, they're still, you know, packed. So, you know, again, sometimes you read a lot of things about, you know, that there's a recession coming, but, you know, if you're out and about and noticing things yourself, you know, what does it tell you, right? If you're going out to restaurants and they're all packed. So again, kind of just very interesting. One group that did not perform well today, you know, took a little bit of a breather, which is fine because I sold this name. I sold this name on Friday, right? This was SQM, right? So out of this at 114, now pushing back to 108. So I'm looking at this again, right? The lithium space was very hot, but probably needed to cool down a little bit, right? This is LTHM, right? Notice that also fought back very well today. This is another one to kind of keep in mind. So if you played these and you took profits, right? I talked about in the beginning of the video how I've been, you know, hitting base hits and doubles. You know, SQM was, where did I sell this? I don't know, maybe almost a double, I would say. When I got out of this at 114, paid 108, but now I'm looking at it again, right? I think it's that name is kind of setting up for me, right? ALB is another one too. This one I think needs a little bit more time, but I like that SQM. It's also a play on agriculture. Also, one of the things when I went through like the 20-day new high list coming into today, the biggest sector that stood out to me in terms of names that were hitting their 20-day new high was the healthcare space, right? There was more names than in any other sector that were at 20-day new highs. Look at a couple of these things, right? This is Ionis Pharmaceuticals. I'm probably mispronouncing that. I apologize. Nevertheless, it's breaking out here. Very nice. I think this could get up to 50 bucks, right? That's a nice move considering the breakout of value was around 45. Another one that seems to be getting a lot of attention is this RYTM, right? It didn't close on the highs, but I would still kind of keep it on your radar, and maybe this thing can get up to $31. So some strength in there, right? TMDX is another one that I'm watching. Didn't do anything crazy today, but just methodically continues to kind of move higher. Very nice, right? Here were a couple of trades that I took off today. Montauk, right? So this one I would consider a double, right? Not double in terms of like, you know, making twice your money, but just talking baseball here. But yeah, I mean, this was fine. You know, put this thing on for 17 bucks, take it off for 20. I don't know, maybe that's still a signal. The double's probably CEG, right? So again, following you know, my trading plan and saying, hey, these things are getting a little bit extended. They probably need a little bit more, you know, CEG, I would like to see a little bit of consolidation and get back involved in this thing, maybe around like 85, maybe a little bit south of that, right? And kind of, you know, keeping those names on the radar. Just a couple other names that I thought were interesting, a name that I haven't looked at in a while, but look at what Funko's been doing, right? Kind of sold off on earnings, right? The other one in this space is JAKK, which has been acting better, but still very, very decent looking. All right. So I will keep it, I'll kind of finish the video here. Want to keep it kind of a little bit shorter because we've got a big day for tomorrow, but VRTX looks pretty well too. The managed care names perked up today too, right? CI made a new high. I don't think it finished on the highs, but again, some of these names that are a little bit lower volatility are, you know, still where people want to hide out in. NEE, I think looks ripe for new highs, right? Another one that I've been positioning in is this RSG. Did not close on the highs, underperformed a little bit, but that's something that I'll be watching tomorrow. All right, guys, I'll end it there. Another, you know, nice day, you know, in terms of you know, moving ahead with you know, adding to my account values, right? Adding some positive P&L, and we'll see what we get. Again, like I said, I'm positioned pretty light into tomorrow. You know, but I will definitely be watching how the market, you know, handles the CPI report, you know, whatever it is, and it may set up, you know, an opportunity to possibly add some risk. If you like this, two things. If you like this video, please go ahead and like it, put a comment on it or whatever. I don't usually ask for that in these YouTube videos, but please go ahead and do that, like it, share it, whatever. And then also, if you want to be a member of Tribeca Trade Group, right? I talk about this a lot. You know, go into here. We've got a great community of traders. We're all working together and looking to grow our account and provide help to one another to get everyone to where they want to be in terms of achieving their goals for this year. Have a great night, guys. See you tomorrow.